In this video, we want to discuss the different types of sampling methods. In other words, how do we get those samples out of our population and everything? The first way is just called a random sample. The random sample is one in which everyone in the population has an equal chance of being selected. So let's think about just putting everybody in a classroom, actually people's names in a hat, and you mix them up and you pick 5 people. That is considered a random sample, okay? So a sample size of n, lowercase n, from a population of size capital N are obtained through a simple random sample if every possible sample size n has an equally likely chance of occurring. The sample is then called a simple random sample. And here's the thing. You'll notice that I have included that should be simple random sample. So you've noticed that I've included some notation, lowercase n and capital N. Notation is extremely important within the statistics study and everything else, especially within this course. So you might want to start a page that has notation on it, and you're going to have, say, lowercase n means sample size, and capital N is your population size, okay? And I would keep this running list throughout your statistics career because they're not going to change or anything. Okay, so looking at this, a simple random sample is analogous to a lottery, okay? Whenever we're looking at it, suppose that 10,000 lottery tickets are sold and 5 are drawn as the winning ticket. Each ticket of 5, or each collection of 5 tickets that can be formed is equally likely to comprise the group of 5 that is drawn. Literally, this is putting all 10,000 tickets into a bucket and we draw 5. We mix them up, we draw 5 others. We mix them up, we draw 5 others. That is, putting the previous tickets back. These are simple random samples because we have no idea, there's no conditions on it or anything along that line. And so we want to make sure that we pay attention to this. So look at example 2. A physical education professor wants to study the physical fitness levels of students at her university. There are 20,000 students enrolled at the university. Okay, so you're not going to sample all 20,000. Let's just be honest. She wants to draw a sample size of 100 to take a physical fitness test. So that's a pretty good sample and everything. You've got 100 out of the 20,000. And so what she does is she obtains a list of all 20,000 students, and then she randomly gives them a number. This random number generator on your computer is great if you want to do a simple random sample. Okay, so let's say that she put all the students down and then in a spreadsheet and then gave them a random sample or random number generator. And they could be anything between 1 and 20,000. She gets the top 100. Those top 100 have absolutely nothing in common except for the computer gave them a number randomly in which it selected them to be participants in the study. Okay, this is a simple random sample because she went out and got 100 students. Every single set of 100 students is equally likely of being selected. Another type of sample is called a convenience sample. And we have a little bit of trouble every now and then whenever we're looking at the differences between a convenience sample, a simple random sample. A convenience sample is one in which individuals are easily obtained. This is the most popular type of sample for voluntary response samples, okay? Convenience sample is just going into, we want to look at the entire population of the college. Well, instead of getting the names for everybody, we just go into a classroom and select those people. That's a convenience sample. It's those people that are next to us and everything. Now notice it says voluntary response sample. So a voluntary response sample, you can guess what that is a little bit because it's a sample in which the respondents decide whether to be included or not. The voluntary response sample is not a very good representation of the population because think about it. You're online and you get this pop-up for a poll. Well, most of us close those pop-ups or have those pop-ups blocked or something along those lines. We don't answer them. This is a type of voluntary response because we're not made to answer them. And so it's a little bit low and that type thing. Not a lot of companies do mail-in surveys anymore, but this is another type where you get something in the mail and they want your opinion or they want information about you and everything. Well, how many of us just grab those out of our mailbox and throw them straight in the trash? I'm bad about that. I don't really do voluntary response samples. These are also your telephone polls. And I can guarantee you, unless I know who it is, I'm not answering my phone. So that creates a little bit of problem, okay? These are not good representations of the population, again, because of the fact that we look at this and it's only those people that want to respond. So it's only really those people that have a strong like or strong dislike to whatever is being discussed that usually respond to these voluntary response samples and convenience samples. The next two types of samples are where we get into a lot more thought process behind our samples. And the first one is called a stratified sample. Whenever we look at a stratified sample, what we're doing is we're separating the population into these homogeneous, non-overlapping groups, what we call strata. And then we take a random sample from each of the stratum, okay? So this is like breaking up people into different classifications: freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And then we take a few people from each group. Or think about everybody's in a classroom, like whenever you were in high school or something, all the students are in different classrooms. That would be considered the different stratas. And then what we do is we go in and we take 2 people from each classroom. That would be our sample. So we've broken everybody up into these groups and we take somebody from every single group. Example here is a college faculty consists of 400 men and 250 women. The college administration wants to draw a sample of 65 faculty members to ask their opinion about a new parking fee. So they draw a simple random sample. That should say 40 men instead of mean. I apologize. So 40 men and another sample from the 25 women and put those 65 people together as a single sample. So we've broken them up into groups versus on gender, based on gender, and then we take some from each group. That's the key for the stratified sample. A cluster sample is also one where we break people up into stratas, groups. We usually call those clusters and everything, either way. But then we randomly select some of those clusters, not some people from each cluster, but some of the clusters, and sample everybody in that cluster. Let's go back to the situation with classification. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Those would be considered our clusters. And then we selected all freshmen and all juniors to take a test. That would be considered a cluster sample. Okay? Think about, again, when you're in classrooms. Classrooms are considered our cluster. Well, let's say that rooms 102, 106, and 110 are sampled. The other rooms are not. But everybody in those rooms are sampled. That's a cluster. Example 4 shows another example of cluster. Officials at a Metropolitan Transit Authority want to get input from people who use a certain bus route about a possible change in the schedule. They randomly select 5 buses during a certain week and poll all riders on those buses about the change. So basically what they've done is they've divided people up into based on their buses. Which bus do you ride? And then they're going to look at 5 of those buses and ask everyone on that bus, what do you think about this change? That is going to be that cluster sampling. The last type of sampling that we look at is what we call systematic sampling. This, to me, is probably the easiest to recognize. What we do is we take every kth individual from the population. So this example says police at a sobriety checkpoint pull over every 5th car to determine whether the driver is sober or not. They're not pulling over every car. Basically, you're in a line and every so many people get pulled over. This happens at supermarkets. This happens at sporting events. As you're going into the gate, maybe you're given a number and every 100th person wins a prize or is given something. Every 10th aisle, you find something. You're looking at those type of things. Okay, right here is kind of a picture of the different types of sampling. The first type was simple random sample. Everybody's in a group, we just pull a few. Then we look at stratified. Here's our population, we break them up into 2 groups, maybe more groups, and then we take a couple from each group. Down here's our cluster. Notice it's broken it off into different clusters. And then we're going to select 2 clusters and ask all 4 people in each of those clusters. Notice these 16 people didn't really have a shot of being chosen because they weren't in those identifiable clusters. Again, that's cluster sampling. Then systematic sampling is, okay, I've got the 2nd person, the 5th person, the 8th person, the 11th person. So every 3rd person, starting somewhere in the line. We could have started at the 1st person. That is systematic. So let's say that I take the 1st person, 6th person, and the 11th person. That's basically taking every 5th person, beginning with person number 1. That's a possibility of looking at our systematic sampling. So I want you to really look and study these different types of sampling, and then let me know if you have any questions.